Hey guys, good evening. Thanks for checking out the Ironman 70.3 Boulder course info, tips and tricks, and Q&A. Thanks to everyone who has submitted their question over the last couple of days, last couple of weeks. I've got several of those questions answered within the presentation, and then I will have a few minutes at the end to do some questions as well. So if you would like to submit questions now, you can use that GoToWebinar widget that is there on your screen. There is a questions tab, so go ahead and submit your questions there. I will get to as many of those this evening as I can. If I am not able to get to your question this evening, or if it's a very personal question, I will follow up with everyone in the next couple of days, and I will respond to those via email. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is John Mayfield. I am a full-time triathlon coach. I am certified by USA Triathlon at level 2, as well as Ironman U. And I've had the privilege of coaching hundreds of athletes, from first timers to professionals and everyone in between. My passion is working with athletes racing long course, so 70.3 and Ironman distance races. And I'm fortunate to do this as my career. And I'm just passionate about helping athletes. So that's what I want to do this evening, is just pass on some of my experience, some of my education, even my experience with Boulder, to help you enjoy your day as much as possible and to produce your best results. All right, so a couple pre-race tips. It is critical to stay hydrated. This is something that sometimes is taken for granted, or sometimes even underestimated. Um, Keep in mind that Boulder is a relatively dry climate, so especially if you're coming from a more humid area, you may feel this a little more quickly. Also at elevation. So my recommendation for race week, especially in those days leading into the race, is that you always have a water bottle with you, preferably with electrolytes in there. So either something pre-made or using those electrolyte tabs, just to ensure that you are arriving at the start line with a good level of hydration and electrolyte stores. Limit time on your feet. So it's important to save those legs for race day. There's several things to do leading into the race, between check-in and bike drop-off and all those kinds of things. Checking out the Ironman Village, a lot of cool stuff. And then obviously you're in the beautiful area of Boulder. But again, limit time on your feet, manage time on your feet. Don't overdo it. Make sure that you're saving the legs for race day. Go and check out the course. It's a new course, but it's kind of like the old course. So just pretty much it's very much the same area, several of the same roads, but just a little bit different. But whether you've raced before or this is your first time racing, I always recommend that athletes go and actually put eyes on the course and see exactly what they're in store for on race day. We don't want any surprises on race day. So one of the most important things you can do is actually go and see what you're going to experience on race day. So I'm going to be talking about a couple hills, a couple climbs, both on the bike course and the run course. That is kind of a subjective thing. You know, what is a big hill? What is a long hill? Everyone is going to have a different definition for that. So go and see exactly what I'm referring to. Also, see where the aid stations are going to be. Several days out, those are going to be marked on the roads with brightly colored duct tape, so you can see where those are and plan your nutrition, hydration, cooling protocols appropriately. Those are going to be critical in this race. So you really want to make sure you've got those dialed in. And something important to consider is, where are those aid stations in relation to any of the more technical areas on the course. So there are several 90-degree turns. There are, again, as I mentioned, some climbs, some descents. So where are those aid stations in relation to those? That's going to be important to know as well, because sometimes I wonder why Ironman puts the aid stations where they do. Sometimes they'll put them right in the middle of a climb when there's a long stretch of flat, just before or just after. Sometimes they're right after a 90-degree sharp turn. So it's always good to see exactly where those aid stations are. And as this is a new bike course, everyone will kind of be on equal footing here, as no one has ridden this course in the race before. So go and see exactly where all that is. And again, just know exactly what you're going to be in store for on race day. And speaking of, something else that can be very beneficial with that is reading the athlete guide. So a lot of good information in there. It's going to tell you pretty much everything you need to know so far as logistics. The schedule is in there. And again, more information about the things leading into the race as well as race day and after. So make sure to check all of that out. So, something a little unique about racing Ironman Boulder is the fact that it is at elevation. Off the top of my head, I think this is pretty much the only race in the U.S. That actually is at any amount of elevation that is really going to begin to affect you because of the altitude. So, just above a mile high, 5,300 feet above sea level, and kind of as a rule, that 5,000 feet of elevation is really where you begin to experience and feel the effects of being at elevation. First couple thousand feet, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 feet. Not really going to feel a lot of the elevation. Once you begin to approach that 4,000, 5,000 feet, that's where that's going to begin to change. And obviously, once you get up to like 10,000 feet, that's where you're really going to feel it. So there are some races that are up there, those very high elevations, 10,000 feet. This is not one of those. So it's not going to be an extreme elevation, but it is high enough where you're going to feel it, especially if you're not from the area, if you're coming from something that is closer to sea level, chances are you are going to feel the effects of being there at elevation. So um, one of the one of the strategies that you can implement for dealing with the elevation and not having so much of that acclimation time is arrive early or arrive late. Now, this doesn't actually set up real well with the traditional Ironman schedule. So really, what they say is kind of like day two, day three are going to be the days where you're going to feel it and experience that elevation the most. Every time I go to Boulder, I have kind of a low grade headache throughout my time there. I live very much at sea level. I live my house is at like 30 feet of elevation, so it's a big jump for me. So again, I have that kind of low grade headache the whole time. And usually it's going away right about the time I'm headed back to sea level. But you can arrive early and kind of get through all of that. It takes several days for your body to adjust. And there actually are some physiological adaptations that happen even within your blood, but that takes some time. The other thing to do is to arrive late. So as I mentioned, it's usually like day two, day three, where you're really feeling the effects of it. So if you can kind of show up at the last minute, your body doesn't really have time to feel it as much. But again, you have to check in, check your bike, all those things the day before the race. So chances are that's less of an option. If you're concerned about that, there are even some options to you could stay at a lower elevation, come up to Boulder for the race, but I would say it's probably not that big of a deal. But again, as I already mentioned, staying ahead of hydration is going to be key. That's part of it that can either exacerbate or offset some of that. So if you're behind on hydration, you're going to feel those effects more. But staying well hydrated is going to help minimize the effects of that. And even like I said, too, minimizing the time on your feet, the amount of activity that you're doing. Keep in mind that those days leading into it, as you're doing those sessions, if you're doing those sessions with the less available oxygen, then you're going to feel the effects of that more. So take it a little easy is in those days leading in, just to not kind of get behind, as there is that less available oxygen. Adjust your nutrition and hydration. Kind of already mentioned the hydration component to it as well, but make sure that you are adjusting your nutrition as well. This is more so in the race that I'm speaking to now. That is going to be an important component to it as well. And perhaps most important is adjusting your pacing and your expectation. So effectively, the elevation changes the amount of available oxygen in the air. So, what the amount of oxygen that you're used to getting if you are training and racing at those lower altitudes is not going to be there. So, it's almost like breathing through a straw or something like that. So, your heart rate is going to be increased because your heart is going to have to pump more blood to those working muscles because it's not getting in as much oxygen. to work with. So if you are maintaining the same wattage on the bike, the same pace on the run that you're used to, you're going to experience a higher heart rate simply because your body is going to have to pump more blood to those working muscles to produce that same power, to produce that same pace. And so as that heart rate is increased, that means the body is going to tire more quickly. That's part of the reason for increasing your nutrition, simply because you're going to be burning more energy. So make sure that you're accounting for that. So you likely will need to adjust your intensities down to account for that increase in elevation, and by how much is going to be individual and specific to each athlete. But if you're coming from sea level, or I would say 3,000 feet below, you're definitely going to need to back off what you would be doing if you were racing at sea level. All right, race morning. Again, they've made some changes to this race. So basically, my understanding is that there is going to be no parking at the reservoir. In years past, they had parking passes that were provided to a certain amount of athletes at check-in. My understanding is that's no longer the case, but now what they're doing is offering parking relatively nearby. It's actually pretty close, right there near the lake, and they will be shuttling everyone over. So the parking is at the Kindrel Boulder, that is up kind of on the northeast section of the lake. It looks to be just a couple miles from the lake, if that. And they will have those shuttles running starting at 4 a.m. So you can go up there, park at the Kindrel plant, and then hop on a shuttle bus down to the reservoir. So this is actually a good thing. Parking does get difficult; it's congested and quite limited down there. So having this large space up there with a very short, easy shuttle ride is really going to be, I think, a benefit and make race morning all the more easy. So again, check out the athlete guide, see exactly where that is. The address is in there. Again, it's real close to the reservoir. Check it out the day before. See exactly where. Maybe when you're headed down there to drop your bike, just see where it is so you know exactly where to go. But that said, at 4 a.m., pretty much everyone on the road going somewhere is going to be going there. So maybe just follow the crowd. All right, heading out onto the course. Boulder Reservoir, really neat swim venue. In for a treat here. It's a great swim. Swim start. The water temperature will be announced in the days leading into the race. Typically, they will post those in the Ironman Village. They'll take some daily measurements leading into the race. So you'll have a really good idea of what that water temperature is going to be. Most likely, it's going to be in the mid 60s. Just kind of based on years past when Ironman Boulder was in June. So historically, mid 60s in June, and what we're seeing just so far year to date, looking like it's going to be somewhere in the mid 60s. So it is wetsuit legal up to and including 76.1 degrees. So very, very likely this is going to be a wetsuit legal swim. But what that looks like for you based on that water temperature. Is it a full sleeve suit? Is it a short sleeve suit or a sleeveless suit? Kind of make those decisions based on your needs, your preferences, and just kind of again plan for mid 60s. Mid 60s is pretty cold. Again, it's kind of a relative term. Um, where I am in the greater Houston area, our lakes are already getting up into the upper 70s, low 80s. And so for me, yeah, mid 60s is a pretty chilly swim. Others, I know you're swimming in this year round. So some may be headed out there in a swim skin because it's only in the mid 60s, and others full sleeve suit and all that because it's in the mid 60s as well. So again, it's kind of up to you, but plan on that and plan accordingly. Race starts at 7:05. It is a self-seated rolling start with a beach entrance. So what that means is you will line up down there, probably starting around 6:30 or so. They'll really be forcing everyone, closing transition and forcing everyone out to get queued up. So you will queue based on your expected swim time. Get in a nice long line at 7:05. The first athletes will start filing into the water, and they'll release usually it's either 3 or 5 people at a time every few seconds to get going that way. With the beach entrance, it's just kind of a nice, easy wading in, and then get swimming from there. Couple tips for the swim start. Get cued early. My recommendation is to do everything early. That even starts with check in and bike drop and all those things. Go ahead and get those things out of the way earlier in the week, earlier in the day, just that you can move on to other things. Also, my recommendation is to get down to the race site early on race morning. Go down there and get your transition area set up. And then, like we see here, get cued early for the swim start. This is going to ensure one that you've got plenty of time to get exactly where it is that you want to be. So what we see oftentimes is the ski will be kind of in a corral. It gets very crowded. It can be very difficult if you are kind of running behind or one of the latter athletes to get lined up. It's very congested. It's a lot of work, and you'll probably just give up before you get actually to where you want to be. So it's important to start with an accurate swim estimate, and again, it's a lot easier if you're down there earlier rather than later. And again, it's just going to provide you some time to settle in. Um, God forbid, if you forget anything goes wrong on race morning, you've got some time to deal with it. So it's a little bit of an insurance policy so far as that goes. So I always recommend getting everything done early. So hop on that shuttle early, get down to the race site, get your transition set up, go ahead and get cued, and then start to kind of focus on your race day, relaxing, getting in your last minute nutrition, hydration, those kinds of things, and make sure that you've got plenty of time to do that, so you're not in a rush. Being rushed on race morning is certainly not a great idea, a great strategy. Don't queue slower than expected. So a lot of times we'll see that either swimmers are nervous or they want to hang back with their friends. But I've done all that, and I can really say my best swims, my fastest swims, my most comfortable swims, my swims with the least amount of contact have been those where I've queued up accurately, either not too fast, not too slow. So know what it is that you're expecting. This is a pretty straightforward swim, so there's not things like current or anything that are really going to throw you off. So you should be within just a very few minutes of your expected swim time. So know what that is, and get queued up appropriately. Don't panic. Nice thing about this, as I mentioned, it is a beach entry, so you've got some time to settle in and kind of get acclimated to the water. So this is different than a lot of the swims where you just jump in. All of a sudden, you're going from completely bone dry to totally submerged in some pretty cold water. A lot of times that triggers that fight or flight response, especially when your face hits that cold water. So the advantage here is you can actually get in kind of at your own pace, which is really quite nice. Those folks that are in that probably 25 minutes and under, they're going to be running across the beach. They're going to be running through that water, and they're going to dive as quick as possible and start swimming as quickly as they can. Others, you have the opportunity just to kind of wade in and get comfortable. It's going to be worth the little bit of time that you may lose doing that, if that's going to allow you to swim the duration of the course. So do what you need to do to get started. Again, waters chances are going to be in the mid 60s. So again, probably a little chilly. Something you can do there as you're getting in, just splash some of that cold water on your face, kind of get exposed to it a little bit, and get your body used to it before you're completely submerged in it. That can help as well. And then once you get into that deeper water, you can do what we call a sink down, and just it's basically that. It's kind of going down under the water, exhaling, and then coming back up just to expose your body to what it's going to feel like for the next 1.2 miles. So just taking a little bit of time there if you need that. That can pay dividends later on, because get it out of the way, and do that. And then keep in mind, your intensity level needs to be reduced because of the elevation. And we don't have those real time metrics on the swim like we do with bike power and run pace. So with the excitement, adrenaline, the music's going to be blaring, and don't get too caught up in that. And just remember What we don't want is for you to get like halfway to the first turn buoy or maybe to the first turn buoy and then realize you're just out of breath and gassed. If you go out too hard, you're going to know it pretty quick. So that's something we always want to be careful of, and something that triathletes have a tendency to do is go out too hard on the swim, but you're really going to pay for it here at the elevation. So again, just kind of take it in and get a nice easy start. Swim course, pretty straightforward. Kind of as mentioned, swim, bike, and run courses are, I would say, new, but kind of barely. Basically, the only change this year for the swim course, as compared to prior years, is historically it has gone clockwise. Now the swim is going counterclockwise. So basically, your only change is you're making some left turns instead of some right turns, and your start line is now the finish line, and the finish line is now the start. So, not a whole lot to it. Again, starting here, the boat ramp, head up, left turn, another left turn, and headed back to the finish. It's not a real big body of water, which is nice. It's largely protected, so even if there is some wind, there may be a little bit of chop on the water, but generally it's pretty good so far as the water being protected. Don't have to worry about things like currents or swells, waves, anything like that. Worst case is probably just a little bit of chop, depending on how much wind there is. Good water clarity. It is a nice, pretty lake, so visibility is quite nice. And then your sunrise obviously is going to be to the east, which is going to be, I would say, call it the majority of the course. So as you're headed out, you're going to be getting some of that sunrise to your right. Not so much once you go from turn buoy to turn buoy, the sunrise will be behind you. But then as you head to the finish, that sunrise will now be on your left. So, a couple tips for the swim course is take that into consideration when choosing your goggles. Again, I would guess somewhere in the neighborhood of a mile of this 1.2 mile swim, you're going to be looking at the sun at least one direction. So if you breathe to the right, it's going to be on your way out. If you breathe to the left, it's going to be on your way back. If you bilaterally breathe, obviously you're going to be hitting it both ways. So just take that into consideration. Kind of pay attention in the days leading into the race where that sunrise is at the time that you anticipate starting your swim. So if you're a faster swim, it's 7:05, 7:10. Where's the sunrise? If you're going to be back maybe more in that hour plus, it's probably going to take at least half an hour to get everyone in. So where is the sun in that 7:30 time? And just kind of pay attention for where that is, and then obviously your time out on the course will factor into that as well. I always break courses into segments. I like courses. I tend to do well on courses where this is easy to do, and this one is pretty straightforward. So it's just a one loop swim. But here we have this big elephant that we eat. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So the easy thing here is just to break it down from turn buoy to turn buoy. So going from the start, making it up to that first turn buoy. Again, that's going to be a little bit longer segment. Once you make that left turn, head to the second turn buoy. That's a little shorter segment. It's the first one shouldn't be too bad, especially if you pace properly, taking that elevation into consideration. So you're fresh, you're feeling good. You make the turn. Then you have again the shorter segment of the three, so feeling good. And then you make that last turn, and you're in your final stretch. So you're going to start to see the inflatable swim exit. You'll hear the music, the announcer, all that. So just take it. My recommendation would be turn buoy to turn buoy. If you need a smaller picture than that, even just buoy to buoy sometimes is somehow how we have to navigate these swims. I said it before several times. I'll say it again. Factor in the elevation into your pacing and your effort level, making sure that you're not going out too hard and being too ambitious. Keeping in mind that you will very likely see a higher heart rate upon exiting the water, and then continue to experience that higher heart rate throughout the day. So make sure that you're accounting for that and managing that. Side often, again, plenty of buoys out there, easy straight lines. So this one especially with the water clarity and everything. This one should be pretty close to 1.2 miles. There's really no excuse, no reason to swim longer than that, swim crooked. But sighting often will ensure that you keep your distance to a minimum, as well as your time. Upon exiting, keep swimming until you touch the beach. A lot of times what we see is athletes get tired of swimming. You've been out there a long time. You swim a long way, and you're just like, I'm tired of swimming. I'm going to walk. So when they get chest deep, waist deep, they'll pop up and try to start walking in. It's going to be much more efficient to continue swimming. So your ability to move through water is much easier when you're floating on top as opposed to vertical. That's a rule I've used for years. And a nice little easy tip is just swim until your hand touches, and then it's time to go ahead and stand up. It's only going to be a few more strokes. You're going to move through much quicker, much easier than those that perhaps are walking. You'll swim by them real quick, and again, with just a few more 5 to 10 yards more of swimming, you're going to get out much quicker with a lower level of exertion. And enjoy the swim. This is a good one. It's a fun one. Beautiful lake out there. So make sure to take that all in. All right. Next, we will head over into transition. So, a couple tips for transition. Know your location. There's a lot of bikes out there, a lot of racks. It's real easy to get kind of lost, kind of confused as to where it is that you are supposed to be. You're going to be dropping off your bike the day before. So pay attention to any landmarks that are around. All the aisles are marked. Generally, they'll have either a number or a letter on it that says, you're on rack C, and know that. Sometimes if there's some landmarks, some signage, a Ironman tent or something like that, those can be good cues so you know exactly where you're going to go. Because when you're coming out of that water, it sometimes takes a little bit of time to kind of get your faculties back. You've been horizontal for a while. Now you're up and you're running. Your heart rate's up. You're breathing heavy, and you've got a lot of things to think about. So know it so that you really know it. And it's super easy to find your bike, because you can lose some pretty significant time if you go down the wrong aisle, or if you spend time, you get frustrated, and then things kind of get out of control from there. So just know your location. Be efficient in your transition. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the next tip, to pack minimally. So my recommendation is to just have those things that you absolutely need there in your transition area. This is going to be make you a good neighbor, so that you don't have stuff all over the place. Shouldn't be a whole lot of things that you need in the transition area. Know exactly what you have, pack what you have to have, nothing else, and then practice in advance. The best way to get really quick at transition, really good, is to practice at home prior to race day. So you have it rehearsed, you know exactly what you have to do, what you need to do, and you can do it quickly. Now, I think something else here is important to say is you don't want to rush, but you do want to be intentional. So every movement is planned, it's rehearsed, it's practiced, it's dialed in. So whatever your process is, whatever the things that you're doing, have those really worked out. And then consider a go bottle. I love this tip. This is something that was recommended to me a while back by my friends at Precision Fuel and Hydration, when I was doing a consultation with them. And so this go bottle is just a bottle there in transition. My T1 bottle has usually 6-8 ounces of water in it, and I will have a full serving of my electrolytes in there, as well as a serving of nutrition. So while I'm in transition, I'm going to grab that bottle, I'm going to chug it down, and that is just going to give me kind of that primer to get started, catching up, so to speak, on my nutrition and my hydration protocols. So there's a certain point where you're queued up to start the swim. You've taken your last drink, your last serving of nutrition, and then you waited in the queue to start the swim, and then you went and swam. You burned a bunch of calories while you're out there swimming. So now you got to go and do the rest of this race. but your body is going to be in need of that hydration and nutrition. So obviously you're going to have all that on the bike, but that go bottle in transition is just a great start to go ahead and get you primed. So sometimes you're settling in on the bike, doing some other things. It's pretty easy to get a little bit behind. So this go bottle just provides that first little bit to get you going. Um, as mentioned before, I always recommend having a bottle with you in the days leading into the race. My go-to is vitamin water. That's what I like to drink before a race, and those have the big mouths on them, as opposed to just your regular water bottle has that real small mouth on it. I like those bigger ones. Excuse me. Simply because you can drink out of them real fast. So that 6 to 8 ounces of water I have in there, again, I can chug that super fast out of that bottle. So that's what I do. 6 to 8 ounces, nutrition, hydration, and it's 5 seconds to chug that down, and I'm then good to go out onto the bike course. Really neat bike course. You're kind of down there in the foothills. You got the mountains in the background. Really neat bike course. So a couple changes again this year. Same area, but just kind of a little different route. Generally good roads out there, so nothing to be too worried about. Again, that's kind of a relative definition. So you may be blessed with very nice, high quality, very smooth roads, or you may be used to some chip seal that are full of potholes and stuff. So again, generally good roads though, so not a whole lot to worry about. But that's something to pay attention to in the day or two before the race when you're out there driving the course. See where if there are any rough patches or that sort of thing to be aware of. Again, we don't want to be surprised on race day. So as we head out of transition, we head out to the south and then the west. So this is a clockwise loop. It's actually two loops. So everything here will be done twice. So from transition to mile 5 is 500 feet of elevation gain. So it's just kind of a steady 1 to 2% grade. Not a whole lot there, 1 to 2%. You'll feel it, but this is not like up out of the saddle climbing or anything like that. There may be some shorter stretches where you hop out of the saddle for a short period, but pretty low, 1 to 2% grade. And then from mile 5 to mile 12, 300 feet of gain, rolling 2 to 3%. So a little bit more in that's basically that northern stretch here. So again, from mile 5 to mile 12 is kind of headed up here. And then from miles 12 to 17 is a steady downhill. So averaging negative 2% on that. So basically, as we come out of transition here, first 5 miles, a little bit of a climb, and then through mile 12, a little bit of climbing there, and then what goes up comes down, which is the great part. So again, from about 12 to 17 is downhill. Make the turn headed back to the south, and it tends to flatten out, level out pretty much here on the eastern side of the course. So keep in mind you'll be doing that twice. So getting around, you'll come down, you go back up, come back down, and then head back into transition. Again, not a whole lot to this course. 2 loops, nice big circle with some I don't even necessarily want to say climbing, but the elevation is there in the relatively early part. Basically, it's the first 12 miles of the loop is where you're going to have the majority of your elevation. So again, always recommend going out. Should be really easy in the days before to go out and drive the course. There'll be 2 aid stations out there, so you'll be able to see exactly where those are. All right, couple tips for the course. Be familiar, as stated there a couple times already. I won't go into too much more detail on that, but again, we don't want any surprises on race day. So go out there, be familiar where the climbs are, what the climbs look like, and then what you're going to experience there. I've said this before as well. Stay ahead of hydration and nutrition. If you haven't picked it up already, these are kind of like my hotbed issues. But I've really seen a lot of athletes that have either completely sabotaged amazing levels of fitness and race readiness by not adequately staying hydrated and keeping up with their nutrition, and lots of others have just not realized the day that they could have had because they're getting behind on those those things: nutrition, hydration, and cooling protocols are I would say very, very important. And again, in my years of racing, my years of coaching, I would say that's one of the top things that I've really come to learn is that it doesn't matter how fit you are, what your potential is. If you don't properly manage nutrition, hydration, and cooling, all that goes out the window, and you'll never perform to your best. So that's why I keep harping on this, just so that you'll be aware of that, and hopefully on race day, you'll maybe I'll be a little voice in your ear reminding you to stay topped off and stay cool. So fuel strategically. So that is kind of speaking to where you are on the course. So again, the first 12 miles is where you're really going to be experiencing the elevation gains. So depending on the grade that you're currently on, sometimes if you're on a steep climb or even a steep descent, it's going to be more difficult for you to get in your nutrition, especially if you're having to pull a bottle off your frame or behind the saddle, something like that. So that's why I say fuel strategically. Take advantage of the flatter sections. Go ahead and get in the nutrition, get in the fueling when you have the opportunity to do so. Be sure to account for the elevation. So again, whatever your wattage is at sea level, make sure that you are backing off a little bit of that to account for the elevation. Now, you may be thinking, my time is really going to suffer because I'm backing off of the wattage, but elevation is actually going to give a little gift back. So because the air is thinner up here at elevation, for the same wattage, you are actually going to be going faster. So you're actually kind of, you can think of it as you're more aerodynamic at elevation than you are at sea level. That air is thinner, so there's going to be less resistance holding you back. So oftentimes it can actually be a net gain. So you may be 5-10 watts lower on your effort level, but that actually may produce a faster bike split simply because the air is creating less resistance at elevation than it would at sea level. So don't get too caught up in that, and kind of the oftentimes some pride can get in there, like, oh, I want to hold the same wattage that I was holding so I can ride as fast. Know that even though you are pushing not as hard, sustaining a lower wattage, you actually will likely be going faster at that lower wattage simply because of the air resistance at elevation. Be prepared for the climbs. So again, just know when they're coming up. For me, some of this is kind of sometimes mental, so I can know when those more challenging parts of the course are. But also, if I'm due in a couple minutes for something like a gel, I'm going to go ahead and take it before I hit that hill, just so that I don't have to take the gel while I am on that hill. Recover on the descents. So again, first half less, I'd say a little bit less than half is you're going up and then you're coming back down. So take advantage of that. It's a relatively steep downhill. You're going to definitely get some free speed coming back down. So take advantage of that. Just allow the heart rate to settle, kind of spin out the legs a little bit. Because you're definitely going to be using those legs on the first 12 miles or so of the loop. So spin out, let the heart rate come down, and either do it again or head into transition. Communicate and stay to the right, especially on those descents. It's conceivable that the faster athletes will catch on their second loop. Will catch athletes that are on their first, and it's also conceivable that the athletes that are out there kind of at the front of the pack on their second loop will be more aggressive, be going faster than those that are on their first loop. So especially on those descents, make sure that you are staying to the right, passing to the left. And when you are passing, make sure to communicate, because there will be some pretty good speeds coming on these downhills. So make sure that when you're approaching someone, you let them know that you're coming up on their left. Just that keeps everyone safe, everyone courteous. With that, enjoy the beauty, be the beast. It really is a beautiful bike course. There's just a lot of beautiful scenery, kind of heading around the lake. There, the mountains in the background. It's beautiful. So enjoy the beauty and be the beast. And then as you head in, towards the end of that second loop, begin to prep for T2 and the run afterwards. So begin to think through that meticulously practiced process that you have dialed in for T2. Know exactly what it is that you're going to do in transition. Think about where your bike is, where are those markers, and then maybe spin out the legs a little bit. A great idea in the last couple miles of the bike is whatever your normal run cadence is, match that with your bike cadence. So most people are somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 steps per minute run cadence. So if you get your bike cadence to 90, that's going to begin to remind your legs kind of what that 90 per minute feels like, and is going to set you up for success there. Now, as many times as I have said to stay up on your nutrition and hydration, another little tip I have that has served me well over the years is about the last 15 to 20 minutes. I don't take in anything. I don't put anything in my stomach in those last 15 to 20 minutes. I don't want a bunch of fluid in there sloshing around as early on in the run. And I'm going to have, spoiler alert, I'm going to have another go bottle there in T2. So I can actually not I can make up for that time as well with that go bottle. So just don't take in. Sometimes what we see is if an athlete is behind on nutrition hydration, those last couple minutes they'll really take in a lot. I would say that is a good idea. Maybe 30 minutes out is to make sure that you are up and good on nutrition. Kind of have a check 30 minutes out. That's going to be for most, give or take 10 miles. So when you're hitting mile 46 or so, where are you? And if you need to take in some additional hydration, additional nutrition, do it then. And then let it settle in your stomach for the next 30 minutes or so. So you head in to transition and out on the run feeling good. Speaking of heading into T2, and my tips for T2 are exactly like T1. Be efficient, pack minimally, practice in advance, and consider the go bottle. So the only other difference in my T2 go bottle as opposed to T1 is my T2 bottle has a little bit more. So it's usually I'm like 6 to 8 ounces or so in T1. I'm more like 10 to 12 ounces in T2. And simply because in T1, I chug it there all in transition. I don't take it with me. In T2, I do, or at least I can. So if I'm real thirsty and I'm really wanting to take it in, if my stomach is feeling really good, I may just go ahead and chug that whole 10, 12 ounces pretty quickly there in T2. But sometimes I need a little bit more time to take it in. Maybe my stomach's a little bit off, something like that. So I'll just take that bottle with me, and I'll just kind of nurse it over the first. Sometimes it's a half mile. Sometimes it may take me 2 or 3 miles to get it all in. But again, I'm getting a concentrated amount of my nutrition and electrolytes in addition to the hydration. All right, headed out onto the run course. So, like the bike, it is a two-loop run. It is partial trail, partial road. It is fully exposed to the sun, so that's something to take into consideration. Is not a whole lot of shade out here on this course, so it's going to be sunny. And if, in case I need to remind you again, it is at elevation. The sun hits harder at elevation, so. If you're like me, more fair skinned and susceptible to the effects of being in the sun, it's all the more worse at elevation. So make sure you're taking that in consideration to protect your skin. This is also going to play in on your cooling protocol because if that sun's out, it's going to be more intense. It's going to be more important or even more critical to manage your temperature. The course is, I would call, it's again, relative term, I would say it's somewhere between flat and rolling, with two stretches that you're going to be making up your elevation. Majority of the elevation is kind of in those two climbs. So, climb one is up on the north side. So basically, the mountains are to the west of the course. So in those times when you are running towards the mountains there to the west, that's when you're going to be going uphill. So you'll start in transition down here at the lake. Again, pretty flat as you're heading around the reservoir. And then once you make this turn to the left at basically between mile 3 and mile 4, again, headed west out there towards the mountains, that is when you're going to experience your first climb. You head back to the south a little bit and then head to the west again. and that is going to be your second climb. Head to the south, come around the lake, and do that all over again. So you can see here on the elevation chart, these are the two spots. So this first one up here is represented by this little star. So basically make that turn, head to the west, come up, head back to the south, and then turning to the west again, another little climb there, and then back down. And again, as you can see, especially the beginning and end of the loop, almost completely flat, a couple rollers in between there. So two loop course with just those two climbs in there. All right, couple tips for the run course. I always recommend this, and I think it makes it even easier when you have a two or even three loop course. In this case, it's a two loop course. Is to build throughout each section of the course. So my recommendation would be here is to start off easy, and that's always the case. Always want to come out of transition. I always recommend even kind of depending on who the athlete is, anywhere from 10 to even 30 seconds per mile slower pace than you're really aiming for, really wanting for. And that's, again, just to allow yourself to settle in and get going and make sure we're not going out too hard later on. Now, the fact that this is at elevation is going to make that all the more important. And instead of maybe 10 to 30 seconds, this could even be maybe 15 to 45 seconds per minute or per mile slower. And this doesn't have to last long. So it's not like you're going to be giving up, 20, 30 minutes on your run. This may be just over the first half mile, maybe the first mile, maybe the first 2 or 3 miles. But basically, we want to start off relatively easy and then build throughout. So kind of as I mentioned, there's this course has north, west, south, and east sections. You're gonna be doing that twice, so you've got as many as like 8 real easy segments to break it down. So that first segment is about 3 miles as you come out of transition. And you're heading up to this first turn. So again, I would be very cautious here. This is relatively flat. So it's not even I would say, the more challenging portion of the course. So kind of take it easy. And then basically between mile 3 and mile 5 is when you're going to have all of that elevation. So know that kind of that second segment of the course is where the elevation is going to be. That's going to be the more difficult section of the course. So kind of prepare for that. And then experience that mile 3 to 5, and hopefully as you're coming back down, you're feeling real good and you can really start to build there. You've done it once, you can do it again. So you're heading into that flat section of the course, and this is really where I would say your race really kind of begins to get going. So you've got one loop down, one loop to go. You're heading into these flat sections. So go ahead and really start to build your pace there. You know exactly what it feels like. Hopefully your nutrition, hydration, your cooling is all on point. And then you get up there again to that western section. No, go ahead and attack the hill the second time, and then attack that second hill. And that's going to be possible because you have paced well, you've held back, you've built throughout the course, and you've been nailing your nutrition, your hydration, your cooling protocols. And then on that downhill, once you hit that second climb, you've got less than 2 miles to the finish. This is really where you hang out. Let it go. And this is going to be fun. You're going to be feeling really strong. Let it go and just run. Have a great time as you close it out there. Is going to be critical once again to stay hydrated. But something I haven't talked about quite as much is staying cool. And this really starts even on the bike course as well, kind of depending on the temperature of the day. There have been days in June in Boulder where it is quite cool this time of year. There are also days where it is very hot. The last Ironman Boulder was in June, and it was a triple digit temperature day. So never really know exactly what to expect from race day, but it's critical to stay cool. That's going to be right there with that kind of that trinity of your nutrition, your hydration, and your cooling. If any one of those gets out of whack, you are not going to perform to your ability, which is just a tragedy. So make sure that you are staying cool. Again, it's at elevation, so that sun is going to hit a little bit harder, and it's pretty dry up there at elevation. So it's going to be very important to stay up on hydration, stay up on your cooling protocol. One thing I recommend on the bike is again, kind of depending on how cool the day is, always taking a cold water bottle. And what I do through those bike aid stations is I take a big chug of water to cool my body from the inside. I then spray my face, spray my kit
to cool the body from the outside. Even if I have a full water bottle from the last aid station, I go ahead and take a new one simply because that one that they're going to be handing off to me is going to be nice and cold. Same thing as we had out onto the run. My recommendation is to take something from every aid station. So you paid a bunch of money for your entry fee here, so make sure that you're getting your money's worth. So my kind of default go-to nutrition plan on the run at an Ironman or a 70.3 is I take a gel every other aid station. And I take a at least 1 cup of water to rinse it down, allow the osmolality to work, and for me to absorb that nutrition. But in those every other one, the odds where I'm not taking a gel, I'm still staying up on my hydration, getting some water in. I'm taking ice and shoving that down my kit, down my shorts, under my hat, wherever I can, and then go into the cold water as well. And the amounts of that is going to vary based on the day. So a cooler, overcast day, obviously, you may not need to do that as much. If it's like I don't know when that was, 2019 or whenever that last Ironman Boulder was, and it's going to be a triple digit day, it's going to be very, very important to do whatever you can to stay cool. So I always recommend taking something from every aid station, and then also planning out the aid station. So again, kind of in the heat of battle as you're out there on the course, sometimes you can kind of get caught off guard. And so it's good to know what you're in store for. What is your plan? What do you got coming up? So plan out those aid stations in advance. Like I said, for me, it's every other aid station. I take a gel with a bunch of water, and then the other one's ice. So plan it out. But then as you're even approaching, make sure that you know exactly what it is you're in there. Enjoy the scenery. Set it again on the bike. Really pretty run. A lot of it is you're never really out of view of the reservoir. You're there in the foothills of the mountains, so it's really really neat. So be sure to take all of that in. All right, and finally, we're headed to the finish line. So these are everything so far has been kind of technical, race related, going to help you get to this finish line as quickly as possible. These I'd say are kind of less important, or maybe less important for some, more important for others. Clean up as you head to that finish line. Chances are you've got the pictures being taken. You know, going to be your Instagram profile for the next couple months. So clean up, zip up, wipe away the blood, sweat, tears, the snot, and then take it all in. Enjoy it. You've worked hard. You've trained for this. You've been out there working hard for several hours. So take it all in, and then plan your finish. Enjoy that red carpet, and find some space. You know, if you're coming in and there's 3 or 4 other people that are kind of right in that same area, maybe let them go ahead. Just, you know, it'll cost you 3 seconds off your finish time, which for most of us that's okay, just so that you can kind of have that time and space to yourself, as opposed to bumping elbows with someone. And then for me, it's taking in all the high fives. There's your support crew, family, friends, lots of little kids there with their hands out, and I just think it's fun for me. So I always recommend that. Get all the high fives as you're heading into that finish line. All right. That is what I have got. We are down to just a couple minutes here. So I'm grabbing the questions that we've got. Again, I will get to a couple questions here in the time that we've got. I know y'all are tapering triathletes, so I certainly don't want to keep you up past your bedtime. Any questions that I don't get to, I will respond to via email. Or if in the next couple days you've got a question, feel free to reach out to me. My email is there on the screen. It is john@tribetriathlon.net. All right, a couple questions here. Do I need special gearing? Again, kind of depends on what your definition of special is. I would say for the vast majority of folks, the gearing on your bike is going to be fine. You don't necessarily need to change the gearing for this course. There's not that much elevation gain. You don't have those long, extended, steep climbs that some of the hilly courses have. So I would say the vast majority of athletes are going to be just fine with whatever setup you currently have. If you're worried about this, or if you're concerned, maybe have a conversation with your coach a knowledgeable teammate, maybe your local bike shop. They would be a great resource, and just say, hey, here's the course I'm doing. Here's the elevation gain. There's a couple of climbs along here. Is my current setup going to work for me, or do I need to make some changes? And again, vast majority with whatever setup you've got, if you just have the stock setup of what came on your bike, chances are that's going to be just fine. If you have a real aggressive flat time trial position, or time trial gearing, maybe you throw on a bigger cassette, but chances are not a whole lot needed for this course. What if I get a flat? Again, roads are pretty good, but you never know. I've gotten flats on some really good roads before. Always recommend being self-sufficient in being able to change your own flat. So carry a flat kit with you and know how to change your own flat. There will be neutral support out there. But you're kind of at the mercy of when they get to you. If they're working with other athletes, or they're on the other side of the course, you may be stuck on the side of the road for a while. Be learn again. That's something else that your local bike shop generally is more than willing to do, is to teach you how to do that. And Make sure that again, you know what you're in store for on race day. Should we carry all nutrition or take hand ups? Again, this is really going to be personal. Something I really like about the 70.3 distance is I actually can carry all of my nutrition um, on my bike without having to have just an excessive amount of bottles, or have to rely on those hand ups. So again, it's really personal. It depends on what it is, the nutrition that you're using. So if you're using that Gatorade Endurance, then yeah, take it. It's going to be nice and cold. It's going to be free. Or prepaid, I guess we could call it. But for me, I don't use the Gatorade, and so I don't rely on the on course nutrition. But same thing with the gels. I don't take them on the bike course. I do on the run course. So again, it's highly individualized. Whatever works for you. Now, I mentioned it earlier. The one thing I will do at every aid station, especially on a warm to hot day, is I will take a cold water bottle from every aid station. Again, and that's just to top off my hydration protocol, but really that kind of is the core of my cooling protocol on the bike. So again, know what it is that you do, and have that plan well vetted prior to race day. Maybe that's a conversation to have again with your coach, a teammate, somebody like that. But find what works for you, and just be safe in doing that. Those hand ups on the bike, the volunteers are great, but there's fumbles and there's bottles on the ground, that sort of thing. So just be very careful going through those aid stations, and again, no surprises. That'll be the rest of it. Okay. We are down to just a couple minutes. So this one was kind of a fun one that I wanted to save till the end. Any secret tips? Not really a secret, and I guess this is perhaps my worst kept secret, other than nutrition, hydration, and electrolytes. I will say race with gratitude, and express that gratitude during the race and in the days leading into the race. So this is something that I always tell all the athletes that I coach is, and I remind them 2-3 days out from race day, is for the vast majority of us, it takes a village. We've got a whole crew of people that have supported us and encouraged us throughout this. It's family, it's teammates, coaches, co-workers, all those things have played into this. And so I always recommend taking just a couple minutes in those days leading into a big race to express gratitude to those people. And then when the race gets hard, when you really start to feel, if you run into any struggles out there, you're going to be thinking about those people. And the fact that you know that you've expressed your gratitude to them is going to be huge. It's going to be really great. And then I do everything I can to express gratitude on the course. I do my best to give a quick shout out to every police officer that is stopping traffic in those intersections. And then all those folks that are picking up our trash, picking up our cups, and dealing with all our junk out there at those aid stations. make sure to express your gratitude to them. And the kind of same thing, help your fellow athletes. We're all in this together. It's an individual race, but we really are in it together. So especially if you begin to struggle, one of the things I find there is if I can get outside of myself and I can help someone else, oftentimes that inevitably will help me, and I'll get back on plan. So that is my quote unquote secret tip that I absolutely don't want to keep a secret. So that is time. Again, any questions that I did not get to, I will respond to. Hopefully, I'll get to those in the next day or so. Want to wish you guys all the best of luck. I hope this has been a beneficial hour for you guys, and go have an amazing race. Good luck, guys. Thanks so much.